meeting to order. Commissioner LaFave, I don't know, I'd see that we've got like about 5 items. If you want to start off with that first one from National Grid and just walk us through.
Absolutely. So this week I'm actually going to defer everything to Steve Harris. They are all his items. So I'm actually going to put myself on mute and let Steve do the talking.
Okay, Steve, you're up.
Hello, everybody. There are a variety of items on there. I don't know what order you're looking at them, but one of them is 100,000 for tree planting. That is our tradition. No, 150,000 for tree planting, and that is our traditional tree planting program. That's bonded dollars. Service requests to support capital projects that are happening in other departments. Items like that.
Now, Steve, is this project like work that you're going to be doing, or is this work in line with like Onondaga Earth Corps? Like who's actually going to be doing that work?
A vast majority of the work is a competitively bid contract. And the contractor, we have a current contract, and that contractor is Tumbers Town and Country Landscaping out of Auburn. Should I move on to the next item?
Yeah, sure.
The next is 62,000 for upgrading and retrofitting of tree pits to resolve the conflicts that are created when you put a tree in a small pit and it grows and heaves grates or heaves sidewalks. And we've been using those resources to expand tree pits, to make it so roots can grow under sidewalks. This is focused on where there are tree pits, so it's our different business districts.
Do you have an idea of how many of those, like you have a list of how many need to be done, or an idea of how many, in those areas, you need to actually do work to?
Yeah, I mean, we know that there's over 1,000 tree pits, and we've probably addressed a third of them. It's expensive work when it involves breaking up concrete and hardscape and putting stuff back in. Sometimes it's a curb. So, it can range from $1,000 to $10,000 per pit, depending on the situation. 10,000 is the high end, on average, $4,000 to $6,000 per tree pit. Because we're playing the long game. When we fix a pit, we're creating a lot of rooting volume, and we're creating rooting volume under the sidewalk when that opportunity presents itself, so that hopefully we don't have to deal with this again. Because all the tree pits that were built in the 90s, that design is dead. Nobody is doing that anymore in any of my colleagues' cities, because we all have the same problems. So we hope with 62,000, we hope to do 10 to 20 pits, impact 10 to 30 pits we want to impact in some way.
And Steve, how do you prioritize those? I mean, like, do you just sit there and say, okay, these are ones that are the worst, or just this is where we're going to go, we're going to get the most out of our money on this one?
Well, there's two different types of priority. One is where, and at first we started downtown, and then we moved to Geddes, and now we had our eye on Butternut. But this budget is half of what was originally submitted, so now we're trying to think of what to do. And then in terms of how much work we do in a pit, it depends. If there's a healthy tree there, then we just try and expand the pit. And that doesn't cost very much money to do that. If we don't need to expand the pit, we just fill it in with flexi-pave to minimize like the weeds growing, stuff like that. If there's a heaved sidewalk and a heaved tree grate, we got to fix those trip hazards. We're trying to resolve the tree gate, but we're not going to go fix a tree grate and not fix a sidewalk issue. So it's all very case by case. We try and do the minimum touch, but if we have an empty tree pit and it can support a tall growing tree, then we fix the whole pit and expand the rooting volume under the sidewalk.
Okay, I don't know if any of my colleagues on the committee have questions on that item.
Yeah, Steve, Councilor Driscoll, I was just curious, you said you've gotten to a third of them so far. Do you have, obviously you mentioned that the budget has changed this year. Do you have an estimate for getting to the other 2/3 on what your timeline or hope is to get to the rest of the city?
Expensive. In fact, I was ballparking. I have it all in our database, and I don't have those stats with me. We started this back in the Pete O'Connor days after a lawsuit from tripping on a tree gate. Somebody tripped on a tree grate. And so we wanted to just go resolve all those trip hazards. And it wasn't as simple as we thought it was. So we've just been trying to peck away at it, and how much it costs depends on how comprehensive you want to be. We're trying to make a pit that will support a tree so it can be healthy in a downtown setting. And we're not building the most luxurious pit. We're building what we feel like is a pretty basic pit, 500 cubic feet, that'll support a downtown tree for its life, and it'll be better than what we get right now in those settings. I can drill down on that and give you an idea, but I'm not prepared to do that right now.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to know if you knew it offhand.
Yeah.
That's
Another way we address it is that when new developments come in, we require that they do the same thing. And we have design standards that are completed but haven't been released that is going to support that.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Thanks for your work on that.
Any
I
other?
just have one question, Steve. Once you repair it or do it from new, for how long do you need to keep going back to it on a yearly basis, or is it done for a while, and the time frame?
Well, the way I've been handling it is when we build a new pit, I plant a tree in the pit, and then if that tree is alive after 18 months, then I fill that pit in with FlexiPave so that there's a level surface around the tree, but water can still get in there. And the FlexiPave is the place that we would go back to it. There'll be a point where if the tree is growing successfully, like the connective corridor trees, where eventually the roots will heave up that tree. But what I love about FlexiPave is it acts like asphalt. And so it has a give to it. It's not like concrete. And we haven't had to replace FlexiPave in any of the downtown connective corridor areas, except where cars hit the trees and they uproot the whole thing. FlexiPave costs more than planting the tree, but less than making the pit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's tree pits. We are also, I want you to know that when it comes to tree pits, I collaborate quite a bit with Neil McCarrick Burke, who is now doing similar work. And so we're talking about how we can combine what we do into one budget item, and we feel like it's more appropriate at DPW. He and I collaborate very well, and so that'll come up in conversation come budget time. Okay. The next one is landscape restoration for $175,000. This is a new one. And this one we established in order to start managing our natural areas. And there's a variety of things that we want to do with this. And it evolved from dealing with poison ivy and dealing with invasive species taking over sight lines of areas. And so we've wanted to use this to convert troublesome areas into either easier to manage landscapes like lawn, which we did on the along the South Ave Bridge. We got rid of everything there and tried to establish grass, and now we just got to start mowing it. But it's also going to allow us to do some forest restoration where we're removing invasive species and planting a new forest there, and a limited amount of the follow-up to make sure trees establish. We want to use it to bring back the pinetum at Thorndon Park, to get technical documents to restore the Pass Arboretum. Those are examples of the projects that we want to pursue.
So, Steve, I was looking through the list, like Kirk Park, Schiller Park, there's a number, Elmwood, there's a slew of parks that we're going to do work to. Again, is that something that we're bidding out the work to someone to do? Or, I just know that, unfortunately, the Parks Department is one of the departments where it's been cut back, with manpower a lot. Is that something that we have to bid out for? Do we have folks in the department that are going to be doing that work?
That's a good question, because actually one of the challenges with our natural areas is that we don't have any, nobody to do that in parks. So this work would be addressed through a combination of work that's bid out, especially when it comes to tree removals and stump removals and installing grass, to working with Onondaga Earth Corps, who can do some of the less mechanical type of work and the planting. But then there's some things we can't, like the pinetum. There's areas where we undermanage our natural areas. We can't get to that. We don't have the staff to do that. And to reclaim them, we need outside help.
Okay. Does anyone on the committee have any questions? Further questions?
Okay. And then the last one is, well, there's two more. There's the urban forest restoration, which is $30,000. And we use that in a variety of ways. The number one way that's used is as grant match. And over the decade I've been here, we've leveraged, it's got to be over $100,000 using the urban forest restoration account. And then we also use it for tree planting, just like the tree planting budget. Like every other department, our requests always exceed our budget. So there's always more planting needs. And we use it for that when it's not tied up with a grant match. And usually that grant match is some kind of maintenance or special project.
See, do you have any specific grants that are lined up that you're using this for? Or this is just waiting to hear back from applications that have been sent out?
Nothing is attached to this because we can't grant match unauthorized funds.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions on that item? Okay.
Final item is 10,000 trees, accepting a check from National Grid for $20,300. And that is a reimbursement for the planting of whatever number of trees times 50 equals 20,400 some trees we planted. And they went and inspected all of them And these are trees that were planted under wires. So if it's a tree that they approve of for underwire planting, National Grid gives us a rebate. And that's what this money is. And we put that in our urban forest restoration account and use it to support all these programs.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on that item? No? Okay,
Thank you so much. That's all.
yeah, thank you.
Those are our only items, but if you have any other Parks and Recreation questions, I'm happy to answer.
I'm all set, but I don't know if any of my colleagues have any questions. Does anyone have anything? Okay, I'm going to call all those ready unless anyone else has any questions. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Can I get a second? I guess I'll second it then. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, all right, those are ready and thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And Steve, thank you for everything. Appreciate
Thank you. I approve and I second the motion.
it.
Thanks.